Good evening and welcome to the Read Down, your weekly progressive political hot take from the Stonewall Democratic Club. Guys, we made it. It is past Election Day. This is our recap of the election. We're going to talk about everything that happened, what is still happening as we speak, and we're going to give you live updates as they come, if possible. This is the Read Down. Okay, well, we made it, like I said, although we're not quite done yet, and we're going to discuss that tonight. I'm Jonathan Welch. I'm your host and moderator for the evening. I'm joined by my co-hosts. Let's welcome Ebony Murphy-Root.
Happy Democracy Thursday.
That's right. Democracy every day. Oh my God. Are you holding up okay?
I'm doing well. I'm doing much better than yesterday, and tomorrow will be even better.
That's great. It's just a constant trek upward. Let's also welcome Alex Mahajer.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Of John Lewis and John McCain are watching over us tonight.
Right. Yeah, we have our Johns on either side.
John and
Not
John.
That kind of John.
Squared.
That's right. Not that. And they're definitely helping us out, we hope. We're going to keep watching. We have some results coming in from Arizona, so we're going to update that as soon as we can. We do have a special guest this week. I'm really excited to bring him on. He's the host of the podcast, The Uninformed States of America, Mike Riley.
What is up, party people? What is going on?
Hey, Mike.
Thanks for having me on.
It's great to have you on. I can't wait to get into this with you.
Oh, yes. Such a tense last couple of days. Good Lord.
It's really crazy. And I have to say, I have MSNBC on mute right now, and I'm just like looking at it over beyond the laptop, and it seems just incredibly stressful. We're losing some ground in Arizona, but we are gaining ground rapidly in Pennsylvania and Georgia. So I want to talk a little bit about the results before we get into everything. Of course, we know Tuesday was election night, and as we were prepared for, we didn't get results right away in every corner of America. We had to wait, and we are still waiting. And right now, we have 6 states that are outstanding, and we don't have the full results from those states yet. We really don't have full results from some congressional districts throughout the country. As of right now, this is the AP. The AP call is giving Biden 264 electoral votes to Donald Trump's 214. The difference between this and most other news outlets is that the AP called Arizona for Joe Biden on Tuesday night, late Tuesday night, and has yet to retract that. Joe Biden is in the lead, we should say, by about 1.5 points. Before our broadcast, it was around 57,000 votes, but that has been cut because of some results from Maricopa County, which is where Phoenix is.
Yeah, but we're looking at a lead now of 48,000. So Joe Biden still is enjoying a 48,000 vote lead. And I'll note the AP has not retracted their projection, and we have no reason to believe that they will. They've looked at the numbers, and they have said that this reduced lead was factored into their original projection, and they anticipated this. So everyone,
great.
About Arizona. Arizona is true.
It's going to happen, okay? And we have an important Senate race in Arizona, which has yet to be called, but Mark Kelly leads Martha McSally by a much wider margin than Biden is leading Trump right now. So we have reasons to believe that Martha McSally, who Arizona voters rejected in 2018, will be rejected yet again just 2 years later. She was, of course, appointed to the late John McCain's Senate seat after she lost election to the other Senate seat that was vacated by Jeff Flake. So talking about the results, we saw the Electoral College. We're currently waiting to see if there's going to be a state that pushes Joe Biden over the edge and makes him the president-elect that will make him the 46th president of the United States. That will make Kamala Harris the first woman to be vice president.
But can we just break some news to our viewers right now that the vote totals are continuing to be updated in Georgia, and it looks as though Biden is digging into Trump's lead and now is within 2,500 votes of overtaking Donald Trump in Georgia, with maybe 20,000 votes left to be counted. I said this yesterday, and I am telling you, the spirit of John Lewis shines on us tonight and always. And Stacey Abrams, our Lord patron saint, Stacey Abrams,
our walking saint. She is very alive, Alex.
Because, well, she's still our Lord patron saint, and she's my favorite idol. Okay, I will worship at the altar of Abrams, but you know. This.
Give me one of those candles. Do you know what I mean? You know those like prayer candles with Stacey.
I had one for Hillary Clinton.
Let's get one with Stacey. No, it's not. Let's get one with Hillary. Let's get one with Stacey. Let's get one with Nancy. Let's go down the list. And our queen. But also, we are about to make history because the glass ceiling for women will continue to, get several cracks in it and shatter in different areas, and Kamala Harris will become. Right now, Nancy Pelosi is the most powerful woman in American politics in our history. Kamala Harris would become that. So this is really, it's just changing as we go. Alex, you want to break something?
We want to break a little more news that Joe Biden is now closing in on Donald Trump in Pennsylvania as well. It looks like we just lost the number, but it looks like the gap has now narrowed to something like 50,000 votes in Pennsylvania. And these counting ballots, the absentee vote in Pennsylvania is being voted for Biden. Something like 70 or 80% of the vote is going for Biden in Pennsylvania in these absentee votes, especially in Philadelphia County, where 80% of voters are voting for Joe Biden. So just want to say that it may be that tonight, as we are watching this broadcast, that Joe Biden will become the president-elect of the United States.
I hope it happens during Sean Hannity's broadcast. That would be the best.
Wouldn't that be wonderful? Exactly. Come on.
Yeah, that would be the best. We still got a little bit of time because Sean Hannity's show goes off at 7, and it would be wonderful if in the middle of Sean Hannity's show he had to announce President-elect Joe Biden. That would be just the best.
But do you think he would? Do you think that he would say it? Do you think he would actually say that? I think he would probably just glaze over the truth. Right. Now, I want to go through a couple of pieces of the results, and then we're going to talk about what it's like in Fox News land, where where the bloated orange monster is still your leader. In the Senate, we have a very close result. We were hoping to flip a lot of additional seats in the Senate, but right now we have only flipped John Hickenlooper, overtaking Cory Gardner in Colorado. And we are waiting on the aforementioned results out of Arizona to see if Mark Kelly will best Martha McSally, and it looks like that is most likely going to happen. So that will bring our totals to 48 Democrats and 50 Republicans in the Senate. Vice President Kamala Harris would break a 50-50 tie. And what happens to the other two seats, you might ask? Well, in Georgia, we don't have results because we're going to two runoffs, which we're going to talk about later. In the House, we are looking right now at a projected majority of only 8 seats in the House of Representatives, as Democrats did lose some seats throughout the country. We will have 226 to 209 if all goes according to projections. As of right now, we have, for called races, 205 to Republicans at 193. I want to talk a little bit about the numbers, and I want to get into these results a little bit. Initial reactions on where we are right now. I'm going to kick it over to our special guest to start us off. Mike, what are your thoughts?
Well, my initial reaction to, especially with the Senate seat or with the Senate races and with the House races, just where we are right now. I'm glad we were able to retain control of the House. It's unfortunate that we lost a few seats. It would have been nice to actually have that entire blue wave go through. But at the end of the day, I think us being able to retain control of the House is absolutely imperative. The Senate, I'm a little more disappointed about. hopefully John, or with the fact that John Hickenlooper pulled it off in Colorado, I already know that Mark Kelly is going to win in Arizona. I mean, I'm thankful for all the people in Arizona who went out there and voted blue. I have a theory that all these people that are moving from California to Arizona is the reason why it went the way it did. But also, too, you would think that people in Arizona would at least elect an astronaut whose wife was shot in the face because of some crazy right winger. So you would think that they would have that in their back pocket there. But I gotta say, it's going to be tough. If hopefully we get the Senate. I know we got the runoff elections coming up here with John Ossoff and everything like that in Georgia. So hopefully we were able to take control of the Senate, because if Joe Biden does end up winning this, if he does end up pulling this off, we're going to win to be able to get some things done. And I think that's the most that's paramount, in order for us to get things done. Because the last thing we need is another Barack Obama situation where we have the White House, but we don't have the Congress that we need in order to enact good progressive legislation. So those are my initial thoughts.
Agreed. And when you talk about Mark Kelly in Arizona, we have to really note that Mark Kelly and his wife Gabby Giffords, former Congresswoman Gabby Giffords, who sustained a terrible head injury from being shot by a right-wing extremist about 10 years ago, and she's made a remarkable recovery. They are considered to be just the highest level of patriots and are very well respected in Arizona. So, I think that kind of icon status helps them, certainly helps Mark Kelly in that race. I was thinking about some of these candidates that unfortunately didn't make it. My top one was Sarah Gideon in Maine. I was really hopeful that Gideon was going to boot Susan Collins. I know that I'm not alone in that. I know I've heard Ebony say some Susan Collins stuff before, so I want to go over to you, Ebony. What do you think? Aside, you can get into that race, or are there any others that you're thinking of where you were hoping to see a different result?
Sure. I'm going to start positive. Hickenlooper is a BFD. Okay, I have one of my brightest kids from 2 years ago was a huge Hickenlooper fan, and he would always be going on about a Hickenlooper, and I was like, what? This kid loved Hickenlooper, and he was totally right about it. So this is great. I'm really, really excited about Hickenlooper. Sarah Gideon is a huge bummer. But here's the deal, and this is the thing we don't talk about with polling. Our clear friends, our Caucasian friends, our white friends lie in the polls. So Steve Kornacki and everybody else, we need to add this into the polling. White folks lie, okay? And so they didn't vote for Sarah Gideon. They didn't vote for, our dear friend Teresa Greenfield in Iowa, and we need to account for this. However, Hickenlooper is huge. The fact that Georgia, we're going to have these runoffs, is huge. We have a lot to be excited about. And I know, my dear Dems, we have great things happen, and we're still sad, but we have a lot to be excited about tonight.
We do. It reminds me a lot of 2018. I'm glad that you said that, Ebony, because I remember the initial feelings in 2018 were like, we were so disappointed about like Beto and Stacey and Andrew Gillum. And we looked at those kind of like celebrity figures that we created out of that cycle, and we were really upset about their losses. But at the end of the day, there was so much to be like really happy about and celebrate. Alex, you're always smacking me around and telling me to be more optimistic about these things as I'm trying to be analytical, and that's just my nature. But do you have highlights from what we know so far that you want to present to the group?
Look, I'm getting emotional as you say that, because I think it's just funny that anyone would think that I'm the optimistic one, and that people have been reaching out to me, like trying to looking for solace as we go through this process. But I understand just as much, if not more than anybody. And we know the story of my 2016 experience, the trauma of that loss. And so I know that this is very stressful, and that we don't want to feel that disappointment again, and that it informs everything. But I also know that in 2018, Katie Porter appeared to lose her congressional race, and the absentee ballot pulled her through. And this time, people are voting in bigger numbers in the absentee vote. And while we have experienced some depressing and sad losses, we are going to win this presidency. we are going to win the presidency, and that is a big freaking deal because incumbent presidents rarely lose in history, and given just where we're at with let's just be real, we have a vice presidential candidate who 20 years ago, if we had a candidate more than 20 years ago now, that people blamed a woman being on the vice presidential ticket as being the reason why we lost that election 30 years ago. We've come a long way, and we're coming up against all the odds. We're coming up. You don't think that we know the mail service slowed down? We're learning that tens of thousands of ballots were not delivered. They weren't delivered. Okay, that is going to be something in the post-mortem that we're going to need to look at. We know the Russians were trying to interfere again. We know that the electoral map is stacked against Democrats and that we have to do better than them by a lot if we want to squeak out a win. We know third-party candidates like Jo Jorgensen, which, by the way, if she wasn't in the race, Georgia would be called now for Joe Biden, but here we are. So I think against all odds, the Democrats are about to squeak out a victory in the presidential race, which we always knew to be close. Did we want it to be a repudiation of Trump nationwide? Yes, of course, because of what he stands for. But what this tells me, that this was close, which when it all pans out, I'm guessing it may be a 306 electoral college victory. So it feels close now, but it's going to get wider. But the reason it's disappointing is because 250,000 Americans are dead. This is a guy that calls our military losers and suckers and sexually abuses women and lies on a near daily basis and tries to flout constitutional norms, who literally gets up and makes accusations of voter fraud to stay in power, who's willing to put people's lives at risk at these super spreader rallies, who's willing to just he's a terrible person, and nearly 70 million people voted for him. It's fucking disappointing. But what this tells me is we still have work to do. We can never get comfortable in this country. And one more thing. Tonight, Al Gross in Alaska tweeted that he's looking at the numbers in Alaska. Only 50% has been counted. He believes that he's going to win that Senate seat in Alaska. We'll see how that pans out. But the absentee vote in Alaska has not been counted, and he believes he's going to be the victor. We'll see how that pans out, which would put us one seat short.
That's right. That's right. And you know, that Alaska seat's interesting because, of course, Al Gross is an independent who won the Democratic nomination. So he's courting kind of two buckets of voters, you know, and even some Republicans who claim independence really when they're thinking about voting. Alaska is a state that revels in its independence. They have elected, you know, we have to remember, I mean, as recently as 10 to 12 years ago, they had a Democrat in the Senate. They had a Democratic governor. They've had a Democratic lieutenant governor. I mean, they really do. They do kind of go back and forth. They are not a solidly red state, even though they provided Sarah Palin to us. But, you know, I'm glad that you brought up what you brought up about organizing, Alex, because I do think that when we're talking about, first of all, the victory when all is said and done, and of course, we can't claim victory yet because it hasn't been called, but we should clarify this for our viewers in case you haven't been watching, and I guarantee you that the people who are watching right now have watched Steve Kornacki's every move, or John King. I mean, pick your poison. But, you know, they've watched it, you know, for days. Everybody I talk to has been watching this nonstop for days. People can't focus. They need to actually, like, call it already. But what we're seeing is that right now, if everything continues in the trend that it's continuing, you look at Pennsylvania, you see that right now Donald Trump is in the lead in Pennsylvania. Oh no, that looks bad. And I've had several people say to me, oh, but Pennsylvania, I'm really concerned. Well, we're counting all of the mail ballots, and we're counting all of the mail ballots from places like Philadelphia, from Pittsburgh, from Lancaster County, from Delaware County, which is, you know, right outside Philly and incredibly blue. Some of these vote dumps that we're getting are 90-10 for Biden, 80-20 for Biden. It is just beyond. If the trend continues, Joe Biden will win Pennsylvania by approximately 70 to 80,000 votes, which is a number I will say I called the other day when Alex was saying 500,000 votes. And I said, I think 70 to 80, but I like your optimism. So, you know, that's about but that's significant, right, guys? Like, and when we look at Michigan, Like Michigan shocked us 4 years ago, and that's not even going to be close. We're looking at like a 3-point lead in Michigan with as of right now. So Alex was saying 306 electoral votes is the projection right now.
My projection. I don't know who else is saying that, but it's what I'm guessing.
Yeah, that would include us taking Georgia, which would be a very narrow victory, but a phenomenal victory. That was hard fought.
If Al Gross is right and he wins that seat, and we go to that special election and we just win Warnock, because Warnock is looking good. His numbers were great.
Get Lieberman over there.
Then we got a 50-50 Senate, and guess who gets to break that tie? Ms. Vice President Kamala Harris. Trust and believe. Praise be. To pass. Like no last second surprises. But yeah, that's what I just wanted to share.
Yeah. Ooh, and MSNBC has the headline right now: Biden braces for victory as battleground states come in. It is tight.
I gotta say,
MSNBC verb braces.
Braces, I know.
Braces. CNN is reporting Biden closes in on presidency.
I gotta say though, this is something I mentioned last night. I had a special podcast I did last night about post-election, and one of the things I was telling a lot of my listeners is, we might be closing in, but it ain't over. And when I say it ain't over, I mean that in the sense that, I truly believe that Trump is going to try to cheat. He's going to kick it to the Supreme Court, and they're going to try to have them decide who the president is, just like they did with George W. Bush in 2000. This is something that I think that we have to be a little bit vigilant about, going into the future, because, Donald Trump is not going to leave quietly. He's going to go kicking and screaming. I don't know if you guys caught that news conference he did just not too long ago. But he was just up there I've never heard anything like that before.
So I'm really glad that you brought that up, Mike, because, of course, I do want to talk about that a little bit. One of the things that I want to bring up is that the Trump campaign, of course, is filing lawsuits left and right. The lawsuits have very little standing in law.
Very little standing.
Zero. The only thing that they've claimed victory on is that they asked if their poll observers could be closer to the action, and the court said, yes, that's okay. So they are claiming a victory on that. Otherwise, completely baseless. You're right, Alex. Our lawyer on board. I did go to law school for a year. I dropped out because I didn't want to be miserable the rest of my life.
I almost dropped out after my first year, and then
I think so many
for punishment, and I stayed.
Yeah, see, and then I went and got a master's. That.
And by the way, do you know who my constitutional law professor was?
Elizabeth Warren.
No, yes, none other than conservative hero Hugh Hewitt was my constitutional professor. And my undergraduate political science professor was none other than Robert Reich.
Oh wow!
UC Berkeley. Fun fact.
I almost went to Northeastern, where my professor would have been Michael Dukakis, but
man.
Wow,
riding in the tank.
Right, yeah, just that little head just bobbing along. That didn't go so well for us.
No, it didn't.
I will say, I actually had a friend of mine, one of my close friends who might be watching, and he's in Canada, and we were talking about some of my favorite candidacies, because I think the conception is, Joe Biden wasn't a great candidate. That is not true. I think Joe Biden is perhaps in my top 3 if I had to pick. I think it goes Hillary, Obama, Biden. And then I would put Dukakis way down on that list, because even though I love my home state former governor, he wasn't that great when it came to running for president. But we don't have to
get the criteria for a good candidate. Is it
right? Because
does that mean that they campaign well? Or?
It's your own personal feeling. I think it's really like your own, and that was just based on my own personal feeling.
Yeah.
So.
Where's my own personal JFK on this list, John?
I was talking about
Bobby Kennedy.
Okay.
I'm talking about my lifetime.
Right.
So
but John Kerry is my personal JFK, and he was a fine candidate, and he was Swift voted, and somebody needs to talk about that. He was a great candidate.
Yes.
It's a shame what they did to John Kerry.
Yeah.
Well, really, Ebony, and you bring up a great point, because during this campaign and during other presidential campaigns, Republicans play very dirty, dark tricks in order to get a stigma attached to the candidate.
Right.
In this election, they tried with Hunter Biden. They tried making Joe Biden either a radical socialist or a puppet of the radical socialists.
Both
Yes, exactly.
Simultaneously, sleepy, creepy, dementia, and also a socialist all at once.
Yeah. And of course, but that's the Trump campaign is incredibly contradictory, right? Because they did that and then they said that he had dementia, yada yada, which is not true. That might be a little projection. But one of the things that they are doing right now when it comes to these lawsuits is they are claiming that you should either stop the vote or that you should continue the vote. So yeah, enter that into a court of law, and I think any judge would be like, okay, bye. And Mike, when you were saying about like he wants to take it to the Supreme Court, well, first of all, there's no saying that like any of these cases would elevate themselves to the Supreme Court or that the Supreme Court would take anything up. So I think I'm feeling better about where we are on the legal grounds of everything, and I'm not saying that to contradict you, Mike. I'm saying that to calm you down.
Yeah,
and I hope that helps.
I'm completely nervous about the whole thing.
Sure,
I think that's when things will get nasty. Because if he tries to steal this election, which Mitch McConnell and all of them have done, they're known cheaters. You know what I mean?
Can I just chime in on the legal front to say, Bush v. Gore was not about voter fraud. Okay, this is not the same situation. If this was a situation where, it's coming down to a couple hundred ballots, which in Georgia it might, and they're saying there's some sort of issue with the actual ballots that they're erroneously counted, that would be something that might trigger worries about the Bush v. Gore situation. That there is no evidence that there was any voter fraud. And because we know that, I don't think, and what we're learning is that most of these cases that are being filed, and that they were trying to file cases in Eastern District of Pennsylvania, Georgia, North Carolina, they're trying to file these lawsuits in district federal courts to stop the vote counts, which, by the way, if we stopped the vote count today, Joe Biden would win Nevada, and he'd have 270 elections.
Exactly.
So in Arizona, they're protesting "count the votes." In Pennsylvania, they're protesting "stop the votes." Like, pick a lane. Which is it? Is it that we are not counting your votes, or is it that we are? And which is it, guys? So there's no rhyme or reason to these allegations. I don't think any of these legal suits will hold muster. I think Donald Trump wishes that they would. He thinks he's installed a federal judiciary that will let's invalidate it. But when push comes to shove, these judges, whether they're conservative or not, will need to see proof. The burden of proof would be on the plaintiff here to show that there was fraud, and there's just not.
Right.
Okay. So speaking of zero proof, Mike, you brought this up, and Donald Trump got up into the press briefing room today just before we came on air, and I think I was hoping that it would go a little something like this.
Let's start right out. Hey, what happened?
That didn't happen. I was really hoping, but no. So he got up there, and one of the first, and he just went right into it, claiming that this election is being stolen from him and that he is the winner of the legal votes, but not the illegal votes. Ebony, what do you think of that?
His whole framing of what is legal versus illegal is who looks like me and who doesn't look like me. And it's so fascinating because, if we're going to be real, the Trumps of wherever they came from just got here. So this idea that they have a claim to America that the rest of us, Browns don't have is, preposterous. We've been here for 4 generations. My family, the Murphys of Potato Famine Ireland, have been picking cotton for like 4 or 5 generations. So he really doesn't want to go there with who is a real American and who's legal and not. it's a real entitled perspective, shall we say.
And oh, totally. And there's just, again, no basis in reality for anything that he is saying.
Lester Aponte, president of Stonewall, is giving a comment, and I think he might be right about this. Only if the margin of victory in one of these states is based on the late arriving mail-in ballots can I see the Supreme Court taking the case. But, you know, I'll have to say, the Supreme Court would need to be willing to disenfranchise what looks like upwards of 3 million voters in the popular vote, and in these states, thousands, tens of thousands of votes. This isn't like Bush v. Gore when it's 500. Disenfranchising tens of thousands, 20,000 votes, 30 and maybe 50 or 60,000 in Pennsylvania. That's going to be a harder sell. And I think that the Supreme Court has a vested interest in holding on to their legitimacy, even though that has been cast into doubt by Trump's appointments to the Supreme Court already. So I think we're also hearing from the GOP a little bit of distance from Trump today.
Yes, especially after that speech, by the way.
Oh, man.
Which was insane. And Anderson Cooper called him a beached whale or a flailing turtle. On his back.
Called him an obese turtle flailing on its back in the hot sun.
In the hot sun. That was
good old Silver Fox Cooper.
It's beautiful.
So, you know, I think that would be difficult for the Supreme Court to do. And the Trump children tonight are tweeting out, why isn't the GOP standing up for our dad? You know, and maybe now we should queue up now the Michael Rappaport video. Let's
do it. I love this video.
So this is comedian Rappaport, and this is his response to Trump's allegations that there's voter fraud. And explicit language warning. If you're opposed to
hide your kids.
Language, this is very explicit. So this is adults only. And
Good. I say recount, stop the count, count it again, okay? Then triple count it. It's over, fucko. You lost. You fucking lost. The fucking ghost of John McCain bit you right in your fat fucking ass in Arizona. Good, you fucking asshole. Your big fucking mouth came back to fuck you. Okay? The fucking, you don't want to back the governor of Michigan when there's a plot to kidnap her? Good, you fuck. Pack your fucking shit and you're gonna lose Pennsylvania. Huh? The ghost of Daryl fucking Dawkins, the Broad Street bullies, you're fucking done in Philadelphia. You're done. Pack your fucking shit. You got a bunch of fucking flunkies around you. Get your fucking stupid sons, your dumb fucking daughter, your fucking mute fucking blowjob Jared fucking Kushner fucking son-in-law. Get the fucking tape, get the boxes, and pack your fucking shit. Pack it now. Go the fuck away. 4 years of this fucking nonsense, you fucking blowjob. Get the fucking trucks. It's time, asshole. We could count, we could recount. Let's do it 3 fucking times. We'll triple check it. It's over, asshole. You fucking lost, motherfucker. You dumb fuck you.
Woo!
That was some higher learning level.
Yeah, higher learning. That was higher learning right there. Yep,
and we've got more breaking news.
Yeah.
Speaking of Michael Rappaport, we've got more breaking news. The vote count in Georgia has tightened even more. It looks like we are now down to a 1,900 vote spread in Georgia, with votes still coming in.
Oh my God! It is just insane, and we're down to 42,000 in Pennsylvania right now. When we got on the air, when I was taking notes, we started at 60,000, and then as we went along, it just kept going down. Now we're down to 42,000. This is an incredible night, guys. You know, we were talking a little bit about polling misses. We were talking about how we're not seeing the same results that we got, and my feelings on that are this.
Let's start right out. Hey, what happened?
That's just who I want to be when I'm older, and I think that all evidence points to that coming true. You know, as we're seeing these results come in, do you guys feel as though do you guys feel as though polling needs to be, I don't know, looked at? Like, do we feel as though it's completely inaccurate? Ebony, you're making a face. I want to go to you.
I've never been polled for anything. My whole life, 38 years. I'm always like, when am I going to get the polling? I'm enthusiastic Black woman voter. No one's ever called. I got a call last week about the kidney dialysis thing. It was a Utah number. I was very excited. I stayed on the phone with the guy for 20 minutes, telling him all of my feelings. But who are they? Are they texting? Are they calling at 4 in the afternoon, 6? Like, I don't have a landline. Who are they asking? And so it needs to be much more cohesive, comprehensive.
Who does have a landline anymore? And and really, I've been called only once for polling. Mike, do you want to tell me how you're going to serve Nate Silver's head on a platter for Thanksgiving? Please go.
Absolutely. I think the polling, I've been saying this from 21 Jump Street. Do not trust those polls. Those polls to me are off. Now, in some situations, I mean, I guess in 2016, they were telling us that Hillary had this 90-something% chance of winning. And she did win the popular vote. I don't want to get that twisted. More people voted for her than voted for Donald Trump. Just like in this scenario, more people voted for Joe Biden than voted for Donald Trump by a lot. But at the same time, I don't know who these people are polling. I'm with Ebony on this one. I mean, where are these polls coming from? I think the polls and how they're being conducted is something that definitely needs to be re-examined. It gets everybody, and I'm glad this time around everybody didn't like lean into that. Everybody didn't kind of give into like, oh, well, Joe Biden's up. There's no need for me to go out and vote. I'm glad a lot of people didn't succumb to that this time around. But yeah, these polls, I mean, there's a lot of little myths that happened during this election cycle that I think need to be re-examined.
Somebody said something about how if you're calling from like the New York Times or the Washington Post and you call a Trump supporter, they just would hang up on you. Like he has kind of vilified the media over his time in office. That's something that really is hammering at the fifth estate. Is it fifth or sixth estate? I don't know the number. What happened? Fourth. Thank you. 13th
is the media.
Thank you so much. I have dementia, syphilitic dementia, like Trump. I mean, he has really just kind of come for the media over that time. So we're staring straight at the opportunity to move on away from Donald Trump. I'm curious to know, and we can start with Alex because I haven't heard from you in a minute. What do you think is the first?
I feel like I've been but talk. But yes, what do you want to know?
But I'm going to start with you on this round. I just want to know, what do you think needs healing the most? Aside from you.
No, I think this is a really important and serious question because this should have been a national repudiation. And that it's not is telling us more about our country than I expected. I think it's time for us to really take seriously that we have a debriefing to do about why this is so close, and that there are so many people who would watch this tonight and disagree with everything that we are saying. It's a divided time, and that there is more racism in this country than we thought, that there's an ugly underbelly to this country that has been unleashed, that feels justified now. These thoughts have now been entered into the mainstream, and we can't ever really rest on our laurels. We have to make sure that the urgency with which we fought this battle is an urgency that we continue to fight these battles, and we cannot allow this cult of thought to take power again. And that's my thought about that.
Ebony, what do you think changes? Oh, you're on mute. You're on mute. There she is.
What we're not going to do is continually chase the people who have told us we're not going to vote for you. Center the people who do show up and go after them. So what we're not going to do is say, hey, random person in East bum FPA, please vote for us. Center the people who show up and have them bring a friend, right? Center the people of color, the young folks, and those people. Stop begging the people who have said, I don't want you, and center the people who do show up. Please, please, please. Let's not move to the right. Let's not chase the fictive, blue collar, whoever who's not going to show up, unless it's the folks like my dad who do show up. All right. So let's not chase the people who aren't coming back. They're gone. Center the people who are here.
Your dad's a union guy.
Yep.
And working class unions, we really need to dig into, I think, that population. I think we really need to, I also think that how about we just show people instead of telling them, right? Like, we deliver and we show what we can do. Mike, I want to know, what are your thoughts? Where do we heal? Where do we go?
As far as healing is concerned, that's a really good question, because there's two sections to that. There's healing within our own party, within the Democratic Party. Not that we need to, I think this election really unified a lot of Democrats, progressives, everything like that. It wasn't like in 2016 where we had our own little civil war going all the way into election day. It wasn't like that this time around, thank God. But there's still a little bit of healing that I think needs to take place. But at the same time, as far as this nation is concerned, more ballots got cast in this election than in any election in a very long time. I think it's like the early 20th century or something like that. And it goes to show that half of this country still supports Donald Trump. They still support this man. They still support his rhetoric. And they're not going anywhere just if Trump doesn't, in the event that Trump doesn't win the election. So we need to figure out a way to kind of bring everybody together and help them understand that these progressive values is what is needed in order to move this country forward in a progressive way. I still can't think of anything Donald Trump or any of the Republicans, in that fact of the matter, have done to move this country forward in a progressive manner. And I think helping people understand that is key, although it's going to be extremely difficult to do, to sit up, to reach across the way and reach that Trump supporter and things like that. But I think the most important thing is about where we go from here is the messaging that the Democrats need to focus on. It is so imperative. Donald Trump did a lot better with Hispanic voters this time around.
Yeah.
And I think the reason why is because the Republican Party has found their new niche. They found their new minority. They know that the Hispanic population in the United States is larger than the Black population, and they know that that's something that they can target. They do that through Spanish-speaking right-wing talk radio and right-wing media and things like that, how they're just penetrating them. And that's why they're getting such a large percentage of the vote this time around. I think that's something that us Democrats need to come back full circle on. We need to re-examine ourselves. Getting Donald Trump out of office was the goal this time around. But if we succeed in that, I think now it's time for us to start focusing on what we need to do to really move things forward. And I think that's one of the main things. We need to focus on our messaging, like real bad.
Well, what I do also want to say is that a great deal of how they have won Latinx voters, and let's also be clear, when we say Latino voters, that is a giant, incredibly diverse group, and right. we seriously cannot, slot people that much. They've focused on Cuban and Venezuelan populations who have gone through socialist dictatorships and have fled that, and they've done it through a disinformation campaign that has crept into the deepest corners of the media that people consume. They do it also to white voters, but this is how they made their inroads here. They targeted Latino voters on WhatsApp. They've targeted them through talk radio, as you said, Mike. But of course, one of the biggest, broader coalitions that we're building are Latino voters in Texas, where we may not have won, but we definitely made some inroads, and Arizona, where we are seeing that we've made a big difference there. So we're hoping that, of course, we're able to maybe steer that conversation back a little bit. And I wonder, because, we're talking about disinformation, and Ebony, you mentioned the voters, of course, who we should no longer be chasing. I think so much of it comes down to misinformation. So much of it comes down to the lies that are told about who we are as Democrats and the people that we support and our candidates. And we've got to cut that out. We have to figure out how to get to the core of that, so that, again, we can show, deliverables, and we can show how we can actually make a difference. So, we're coming up on near the end, but I do want to talk a little bit about kind of where this all leaves us. So we have to, of course, we were talking about where we have to heal. I want to talk about what we're going to do, because we have 2 runoffs that we're going to focus on. In Georgia, I'm going to go. If they're doing canvassing, I'm going to get on a plane with Alex Mohajer. We're going to go, and we're going to knock on doors or talk to people from across parking lots at a safe distance in greater Atlanta and get people turned out to vote. Very excited about that. 2019.
Can I chime in about this? Very important. Yeah. Georgia Democrats have put out a request for volunteers. I'm going to be doing this all day tomorrow to help Georgia voters who have ballot issues that are preventing the votes from being counted to cure their ballots. They need people on deck to be phone banking. Georgia voters have until 5 p.m. tomorrow to cure their ballots. So they need help in that regard. With regards to these 2 Senate seats, the entire Democratic establishment, activists, whether you're a part of the Stonewall Democratic Club or a Democratic Party or an indivisible group, the entire country who believes in what we believe in must descend upon Georgia for the next month and a half until January 5th. All of your money, I am about to go into escrow. I will just take a second mortgage out. Everyone, put all of your money and time into those 2 Senate seats, because what we really need, we talk about healing and change, what we really need is for this president to have a chance for 2 years of unobstructed time to make policy happen, not like with Barack Obama, and then have the Republicans come in and say he didn't do anything. It's even though it was Republican obstruction that prevented Democrats from moving forward their agenda in 2010. So let's be clear. That is the most important. Our work is not done. I know we're tired. I know it's been 18 months. I know we're exhausted. Muster up your energy. Get on social media. Get into volunteer mode, because we got another month and a half to go. Tonight is not the last night. And by the way, it looks like we'll get Pennsylvania results by 5 a.m.
Okay. Well, you know what? I also want to add to that. You mentioned that we want to have 2 years of unobstructed progress in Washington. How about we extend that beyond? Because I think that we need to organize to make sure that 2022 is actually a good year that defies the traditional statistics of what happens in a midterm election. We actually have some great targets, and maybe we can get to that. But even before we get to 2022, I'm thinking about 2021, in which Virginia, we have an opportunity to elect the first Black woman governor of the anywhere in the United States, with Jennifer Carroll Foy. And that would be an incredible movement in the right direction, especially given the shenanigans of the male slate that is currently occupying the Virginia executive branch. So we have opportunities to jump in. Do you guys have, and let's start with Mike, do you have any things on the horizon that you want us to work on?
What I want us to really work on, just as a party, is just like you said, is to focus our energy and attention. If we just so happen, especially if we happen to win this election, but even if we don't, we got to focus our attention on keeping our down ballot and our down ticket candidates up there. We got to continue to stuff, the coffers of Congress with Democrats. One of the things that I remember from the Barack Obama years very vividly was that 2010 midterm election. I mean, it was one of the worst. I mean, all these people I knew that went and voted for Barack Obama in 2008 and were all gun-ho and were all Mr. Political, had no clue that there was a midterm election in 2010. It's the reason I started my podcast and called it The Uninformed States of America, was for that reason. Was because there were so many people who were uninformed about that. And that's when you had like a Tea Party takeover. You had all that stuff. Yeah, this is when Michelle Bachmann's and Ted Cruz's and all these people come from.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So we have got to stay vigilant. We have got to stay on top of it. We've got to continue to, because a lot of people, when Donald Trump came in office, a lot of people all of a sudden became politically inclined, especially the last few years. I mean, people who I know never even thought about voting before voted in this election. So we have to keep that momentum up. We have to keep people really focused and help them understand that not only does your vote count, but your vote for those down ticket races counts as well. And it's almost even more imperative, if not just as imperative, as the executive office.
Agreed. And, I think that we really need to focus on, there are a lot of people who kind of sat back after Obama was elected and they were like, everything's going to be fixed now. We know that that's not how politics works anymore, or it never did, actually. Politics never worked that way. So, Ruth is telling us Georgia is now tied.
Well, in the percentage, I think that there hasn't been a
statistic.
Oh, it's in the
So there doesn't appear to have been a vote total change, but yes, statistically
within 2K, yeah. So 1900-ish votes, which is an incredible distance that we've gone, and that illustrates a really great point. We've organized Stacey Abrams and Fair Fight and all of the work that has been put into Georgia. We didn't make it in South Carolina with Jamie Harrison. Who's to say that we can't do that next time around? We didn't make it in Texas with MJ Hagar. We can still make inroads. We cannot leave every corner of this country that we have started to work in order to just cede that ground to the Republicans. We need to organize. Ebony, are there any Republicans who are in your crosshairs for 2022?
Republicans in my crosshairs. Not sure. Oh, Shelley Moore Caputo in West Virginia. We've got to look at the work on the ground that Paula Jean Swearingen did. Wyoming, the work that Marav Ben David did. I think she won 42%. It doesn't seem huge, but those are huge inroads for those states. So those people who organized on the ground in red states, support them, help them build their ground game. Also, I have so many friends who are like, I'm ready to go for a break in politics. There's no break. Those of us who are folks of color, those of us who are queer, those of us who are immigrants, we know that there's no break. So have your self-care weekend, get a massage, have some kombucha, and then next week, we need to be ready to roll, people. There's no break for 2 years. We have to start planning again. Please, folks. All right, we got to keep this going. If you were giving $5 a month to Jamie Harrison, roll it over to Fair Fight. I'm already planning to do that. All right, so let's keep these donations going. Keep this awareness going.
Totally. Roll that money over to Raphael Warnock and John Ossoff. And then when we win those races in January, roll it over to your favorite Virginians who need to hold on to their seats in the odd year. Roll it over to Phil Murphy, who's the governor of New Jersey, who I'm sure is going to run for re-election. He's wonderful. Roll it over to Jennifer Carroll Foy. So, we have a lot of organizing to do. I'm personally thinking that in 2022, I want to see Ron Johnson go away. Bye-bye, asshole. He's in Wisconsin, which, of course, we won, and is looking, it's tight, but we can make some more inroads there. I want to kick Marco Rubio out. I don't want to hear it from people who say that we shouldn't be organizing in Florida anymore. Sure, Florida is a pretty red state, but guess what? We can make some progress there. And I really, really, really I wanted to see Lindsey Graham go, but Ted Cruz is just going to be next in 2024. But I may not be alive then. Anyway, I want to give us some final thoughts. That was a little bit of soapbox.
Can I just chime in real quick?
Please.
There's a comment. Joy Reid advice was to register people of color in the teens. Forget to trying to flip Republicans.
Yes.
I want to just play 1 minute before we do our reads of and by the way, this is Stacey Abrams' approach too. You know, black voters, young voters, they are going to be the backbone. Black voters are the backbone of the Democratic Party. They have delivered the country for you, America. They've delivered the country for you, and now the Democrats would. And I hope you'll forgive me saying it, but that's how I feel. And I think we would be wise to now not forget black voters who just did this for us. And the movement for racial justice must be a top priority for Democrats. But this is how they're doing it in Maricopa County and in Fulton County. They are reaching out to our voters. They're not seeking to flip people that don't agree with us. Expand our electorate. And this is a quick interview I did on the ground. I was in Maricopa County over the weekend canvassing for Democrats. And this is Nick Gerber, who is the lead organizer of Case Action there. And they knocked on 750,000 doors to turn out the vote in Arizona. And they will be responsible for this victory tonight. So I just want to show you guys just a minute of that. All right, it's Alex Majer here. I'm here in Phoenix, Arizona, Maricopa County, which is the number one battleground county in the United States right now in the 2020 presidential election. I'm here in Midtown Phoenix, Arizona, at the ground headquarters for Case Action, which is an organization that's on the ground working to flip the Arizona state legislature, looking to elect Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and Captain Mark Kelly to the United States Senate in Arizona. And I'm here with Nick Gerber. He is the lead organizer for Case Action, and he's going to talk to us a little bit about the ground game here in Arizona. All right, how's it going? How's it going?
It's going great. We're down to the wire here. Tomorrow is election day, so we've been out here since the end of July on the ground. I've been here for a month from Los Angeles.
And what have you guys been doing on the ground? What's that look like?
We have knocked over 700,000 doors since we started. We're going to hit 750,000 by tomorrow so that we flip this state blue. We've really been on the ground for 15 years, so this is the culmination of a lot of work.
Yeah, you guys were responsible for flipping the Senate seat that now belongs to Kristen Sinema. And what are you seeing is the chances? Because if you had talked to me a couple years ago, I'd have never thought Arizona would turn blue. But what are you seeing are the chances on the ground?
It's still very, very close. Every vote that we get out tomorrow is going to count. We're in the stage of just getting out the very final Democrats to get to the polls tomorrow. But we have seen a blue wave, certainly here in Arizona, as in other parts of the country, driven by our ground game and our partners' ground game. So we feel good. It's very close. We have to pull out all the stops tomorrow. But Democrats have been coming out in absolutely historic numbers, and we're definitely going to have the largest total number of voters ever here in Arizona.
The early vote has already exceeded the 2016 vote in Maricopa County.
That's right.
In the early vote. So what are you guys projecting will be the turnout, and why are we seeing so many Democratic votes? Like, what accounts for the demographic shift?
What accounts for the demographic shift? I mean, I think obviously Trump has motivated a lot of people to get out. People want to get him out. But it's also years of doing this kind of work, especially with the working class, more Latino community here, of getting them used to voting and getting them used to being a part of this process. The suburbs have been voting early here for sure, so there does seem to be a lot of discontent. I don't think just with Trump, but also with the Republican leadership of the state, especially the failed leadership when it comes to the pandemic. Arizona at one point had the highest rate of COVID infection literally anywhere in the world.
That bring in new voters, bring people into the process. That will be our way forward as a Democratic Party.
And that is Alex's read. That is Alex's library read. The library is open, which we are going to talk about the things that we want to get on a soapbox about. We've all been on soapboxes this whole hour. It is quite a time. I'm going to go over to Ebony. Tell me what you have for us this week.
My read is on intersectionality and critical race theory. Thank you, Dr. Kimberly Crenshaw. There is a reason that they are coming for these ideas, okay? So when you look at me, you see a Black woman, but I'm also from New England. I'm from Connecticut. I'm the granddaughter of sharecroppers. I went to private school. I have student loan debt. I'm, interracially married. I'm in a million Dem clubs, right? So you look at a person and you think you see who they are, but there are all these other little things that these parties need to key into, right? So we're looking at these voters and we're like, why did they vote this way? Why are Latinos in Texas voting in this way? Why are Black folks in South Carolina voting in this way? And we think we know what the reason is, right? Because we're looking at what we can see. But there are all these other categories that make up why people are voting the way they vote. And that's what we need to key into, right? So yes, we're a race. Yes, we're a gender. Yes, we're sexuality, right? But there are all these other things that bring us together. There are all these other categories that we need to key into and talk about, all right? So let's keep these conversations open. It's not just race. It's not just class. It's not just gender. It's all these other things, right? There's all these other factors that impact why we vote the way they vote. And that's what makes the American vote so interesting. That's why Steve Kornacki, as much as I love him, couldn't figure out like what it was going to look like on Tuesday, because what we think inspires what the way people vote is not always the way. All right. So keep asking the questions, keep pushing, keep exploring. That's my read. Intersectionality, critical race theory.
You tell him, Ebony, as our comment just told us. Thank you so much, Ebony. Mike, do you have something that you'd like to shout from the rooftops?
All I got to shout from the rooftops is let's stay the course. That's the most important thing. Ebony, I think, echoed it perfect earlier when she said, the political process doesn't stop here. And I think it's up to us as those who consider ourselves to be politically inclined or politically active to take some responsibility to get our friends and family and all these other people, to get them informed, to make sure to let them know how imperative it is for them to be involved. The old saying that democracy is not a spectator sport and we're all in this together, to me, it never meant more than or never meant so much more than it does right now. It is the most important thing for us, I think, to focus on. I think it's one of those things that can actually unify us as well, if we understand that we're all in this together and we need to be pushing progressive values forward. That's what makes me a Democrat. That's what makes me somebody who votes Democrat, is because I believe in those things, on top of science, of course. But yes, that's what I want. That's what I want to shout from the rooftops.
Mike Riley, host of the Uninformed States of America. I want everybody to go and subscribe, give him a rating, listen to him. Mike, it's so good to have you. We are not done yet because I have my read, but I just wanted to put that in there and plug your podcast.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. It's just been such a pleasure having you this past hour. My final thoughts this evening are that only 3 times in the past 100 years has someone unseated an incumbent U.S. president seeking re-election. That's FDR unseating Herbert Hoover. It's Ronald Reagan, unfortunately, unseating Jimmy Carter. And it's Bill Clinton, who unseated George H.W. Bush when I was just a little kid. Mm-hmm. Joe Biden is set to do this and be only the 4th person in the last century to unseat an incumbent president. And it's incredibly hard to unseat an incumbent president. That is an uphill battle that we knew getting into this we were facing. We knew it was going to be incredibly difficult. So to all of my friends who are out there and who feel disappointed in some of the losses that we took, just remember how hard it is when you have someone who, listen, Donald Trump, we hate him. He's popular. He's popular among a group of people throughout this country who showed up in droves and voted for him. More people voted for him this time around than voted for him in 2016. He's got a cult following. And that has down ballot consequences in some of the harder races that we won in 2018. So we did see a lot of congressional seats flip back, but there's no saying that we can't flip those back in 2022. This is an ongoing thing. You get into politics, you start fighting for the things you believe in, you start fighting for candidates you believe in and a party you believe in and your values and your morals, and you never stop. So if you think I'm just going to get into it, this is like what Ebony said. If you think that you're just going to get into it and then you can relax, that is not the case. We have to get to work. We have to continue. I want everybody to keep your eyes on the prize because we are very, very close to declaring victory in the presidential race. Everybody just take a breath and watch the results come in. We know the numbers are on our side, but we have work to do. We've got to work on these Georgia Senate races. We have to work on expanding our coalition. We have to work on being who we are now, because Democrats are now the big tent party. That was something that the GOP was back in the 20th century, and that is no longer the case for them. They are catering to a shrinking minority of Americans while we are building our coalition and building our base. So let's keep doing that. Let's keep doing the work and not get tired, because this is joyful work. We are going to be so excited to see this wonderful man become president of the United States. And we're not going to agree with everything he does. And he's going to face some really strong challenges because he may not have the branch of government that will help him. We're going to try to get him there. It may not happen, but it may happen. He's going to face some challenges, but we are changing this country, and we've bounced back, or we will be bouncing back, we hope, from fascism. That is not an easy thing to do, and we are lucky that we are able to do it through a fair election just 4 years after he was brought into power. So never forget how hard we have all worked over the past 4 years, and carry that on into the next 4 years and beyond, because this work doesn't end. We're going to organize, but we're going to do a great job at it, and we're going to get each other's backs along the way. So that's my read, and I am going to start listening to Christmas music tomorrow. It's time. Listen, it's time. It's okay. And I'm not going to apologize for that, but I'm excited. Let's keep watching these results. I'm going to get everybody to get back to Steve Kornacki, John King, and any other television analysts that they want to watch. This has been The Read Down. I want to thank everybody for joining us. My co-hosts this evening are Ebony Murphy-Root, Alex Mohajer, and our special guest panelist, Mike Riley.
Thank you so much for having me, guys. I really appreciate it.
Such a pleasure. And we will return on Tuesday night. We will get back into our regular time slot. You can view us right here on YouTube or Facebook at 6 p.m. Pacific on Tuesday. This has been a production of the Stonewall Democratic Club. You can join the Stonewall Democratic Club for just $25 a year and get involved in all the things that we're doing. We spent so much time phone banking. Guys, get into that with us, because we're going to keep doing more. We have a lot of action that we're going to take, so we hope to see you, and we hope to have you join. Please join us. Then check us out at stonewalldems.org and have a wonderful night. Goodbye.